Rahul Pandita is associate editor of the Open magazine, and you've written that book, Hello Bastar.
That's right.
And you've reported extensively from conflict zones,
Yeah.
Baghdad, Bastar, and you grew up in Kashmir, is that right?
That's right. That's right.
So we're going to talk about reporting and news media, but before that, about conflict zones and your personal experiences there.
Well, as far as the Maoist insurgency is concerned, I've been going in these areas for the last 12 years. And that was the time I remember when every journalist worth his salt would go to Kashmir, because Kashmir was quote unquote the sexy insurgency.
And you lived there at the time?
And no, I've left Kashmir in 1990.
Okay.
After after militancy erupted in that area. I was 14. So I was an affected party as far as Kashmir goes. Not that I have not reported from Kashmir as well.
Does it get in the way?
At times, yes, but I try to steer clear of it.
Is it possible?
But it is, yeah, of course. Why
You
not?
can be
I mean,
dispassionate about
yeah,
having
as a
left-
journalist, when you're talking about certain things, and the problem with journalism is that sometimes when you take a stand, it somehow has to get bracketed in, in this left wing or right wing, etc. So that because of my interest in in the Maoist areas and a lot of extensive reporting from these areas, there are some people who think that I'm a Maoist sympathizer, and
Are you?
I say certain.
Are you Maoist?
I
Or what
say
is a
certain-
Maoist sympathizer?
I'll tell you. We'll get to that also. But and on the other hand, I have certain things to say about Kashmir. So some people believe that I'm a right-wing fascist. So as a journalist, I find it a very comfortable position to be in.
To be a right-wing fascist and a Maoist
And a
sympathizer.
Maoist sympathizer. I mean, it's brilliant as far as journalism goes. But coming back to conflict reporting, you see what is happening is that somehow, I'm really amused at some of my fellow journalists who report from the red sandstones of the Raisina Hills and from the Parliament and from the North and South Block. And they use some of these really fancy terms. It's called journalistic perspective and neutrality.
Journalistic perspective.
And neutrality. And I tell them that when you're reporting from an area like Bastar, and when you use these terms, that it feels like hopscotch. So I think we're living in very dangerous times in many ways.
Because of the nature of journalists?
Because of what is happening in the country. Really dark times. We're the biggest democracy in the world. But sometimes you're really surprised at the kind of indifference, really, we see in what is now known as the red zone.
As a journalist, do you think that not enough space is given to this kind of conflict or these kind of issues in the mainstream media?
I think the problem lies both sides. On one hand,
Both sides, the other side being which one?
From the journalism side, from the
That's one
side of the journalists also.
Okay.
You have this talk increasing in newsrooms. I speak to some of my friends who are in television and they want to report from an area like Bastar, etc. And they say they use this word called human resource intensive story. So going to Bastar for a journalist and paying for his or her stay is human resource intensive. But if you have to put 3 OB vans for Aishwarya Rai's daughter, that's not human resource intensive at all. The other problem from journalism side is journalists also have become very lazy. You see, so what you end up, nobody wants to go to Bastar. It's not that difficult also. And even if when you go to an area like Bastar, what you ideally want to do is that, you travel from your hotel, go to a particular village with a local guide or a resource person, take a couple of quotes, meet people, what editors call color. So you have the color, and then you would always want to return to the luxury of a clean hotel in Jagdalpur, for example, in Chhattisgarh's case. But
Do
real
you think
stuff,
that gets in the way of the reporting if you
yes.
need to? You have to spend time there. If you want.
need to you need to spend time because
Okay, sorry, quickly. Bastar 101 for our viewers who don't know what the big deal about Bastar is. This is the big deal about Bastar.
Well, Bastar is really the epicenter of the Maoist insurgency.
Which is a lot of violence there.
It's a really big, large area in Chhattisgarh where the Maoists are very consolidated. So much so that there are areas where the policemen don't dare to venture.
zones.
They call it Pakistan.
Okay, right.
So that's what Bastar is all about. In some areas, they
So
have.
what's it like going to Bastar? I mean, just break it down that you get on a bus, you get off there, you go in, someone puts a gun to your head while you're here. Does any of that happen?
No, it doesn't work like that. I remember a couple of years ago, a senior journalist had done a book about Maoists, and he had the only problem with that book was that it was a book about Maoists, but he hadn't been able to manage meeting even a grassroots cadre.
Who?
Well, let's not name, but
this is what I don't like about news people. They will protect each other.
My friends all over, but you will know. So I made a very nasty comment which I shouldn't have, and I said, he went to Dantewada and must have spent time on a tea shop, etc., and must have spoken to people and saying, where are the Dada log? Dada log are the Naxals, and they would have said, oh, sahab, hame pata nahi, and all that stuff. So I made this nasty comment, and they would be Naxals, and he wouldn't have known of it. So I made this nasty comment. I said, Naxals are not like Coke bottles; they're not to be found everywhere. So just because you land up in Dantewada doesn't mean that you'll establish contact with Naxal guerrilla. It takes a lot of time. Yes, it takes a lot of time.
So how does it take time? How did you establish contact?
Well, over the past 12 years, I've sort of evolved a working relationship with the CPM, the Maoist guerrillas.
That's because you're a Naxal sympathizer. Other than being a right-wing fascist.
Fair enough. The other problem is that I keep on saying, people, because I've interviewed the Supreme Commander, and I'm one of those very few people who actually met him in person. He's done a couple of interviews with the BBC, but he's not met many people in person. So they somehow think that I have a hotline with Ganapati. So I can
how
just,
dangerous is it to actually get there?
It is dangerous. So
why did you do it?
Well, I'm a conflict reporter, that's my job, and I got an opportunity, it's a lifetime opportunity to meet someone like Mupala Lakshmanrao Ganapati. So I got a chance, it was not planned at all. I was traveling in these areas, and he came to know about me, he's seen some of work.
Your mom doesn't get pissed off with you?
Well, my parents are worried at times.
Of course.
They are, but...
if I have to drive to Jaipur, my mother is saying,
sometimes I don't tell them exactly, but sometimes it's very scary.